The sky above the village of Noxon burned in shades of crimson as the sun dipped behind the emerald hills. Smoke curled from bamboo huts, carrying the scent of roasted meat and rice wine. Tonight, the festival of harvest would unite the people in revelry. But for Longkongla, the evening held a secret thrill beyond mere celebration. Her hands trembled as she adjusted the silver girdle at her waist, the jingling ornaments betraying her excitement. She had been waiting for this night, for the moment she would see him again. Tasio was unlike the young men of her village, where others sought glory in the hunt or prestige in battle. He carried himself with an ease that spoke of confidence, not rooted in conquest, but in the quiet certainty of his own worth. His tribe, though fierce warriors, had long been at odds with Longkongla's people. Yet in stolen moments, beyond the watchful eyes of their kin, they had carved a space where love could bloom untamed by tradition's grip. She saw him first, standing beneath the ancient fig tree at the village's edge, his arms folded across his chest, the soft glow of firelight catching in his dark eyes. A flicker of uncertainty crossed his face before vanishing into the ghost of a smile. The moment their eyes met, time shrank between them. The festival raged behind her, the rhythmic beats of log drums vibrating in the night, yet Longkongla heard only the quiet murmur of her own heart. She hesitated before stepping forward, knowing the risk, the weight of expectation pressing against her ribs. A woman of her lineage had no place in the arms of a man beyond her people. But here, beneath the shroud of dusk, she allowed herself to surrender. "You came," he murmured, his voice carrying the rich cadence of his people. "How could I not?" she replied, her lips curving despite the shadows that loomed over their love. For a moment, they stood in silence, the world distilling into the space between them. Then, as if afraid the moment might dissolve, Tasio reached into the folds of his tunic and withdrew a single jasmine flower. He held it out to her, the delicate petals trembling in the evening breeze. "For you," he said, "a promise." She took the flower, the scent delicate, fleeting, and in it she felt the weight of their love, beautiful yet fragile. The night stretched before them, a stolen gift. They walked beyond the festival's glow, into the dense forest where the whispering trees bore witness to their secret world. There, beneath the vast expanse of sky, Tasio spoke of dreams unburdened by the weight of tribal feuds, of a life where love did not demand the cost of exile. Longkongla listened, her fingers entwined with his, and for the first time, hope kindled within her. But hope she knew was a dangerous thing. When dawn's first light bled across the sky, she knew they could not linger. The world would wake, and with it, the harsh truths of duty and expectation. Reluctantly, she pulled away, her fingers tracing the edges of the jasmine flower before slipping it into the folds of her tunic. "This cannot last forever," she whispered, though her heart rebelled against the words. Tasio's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "Then let us cherish every moment we have." With one last lingering touch, they parted, each retreating into the lives they could not escape. But in the hush of morning, as Longkongla stepped back into the village, she knew something had changed. She had tasted love, and nothing, no law, no tradition, could erase its mark upon her soul. The first light of dawn brought no relief, only the bitter sting of revelation. In the quiet hours before the sun rose, whispers of forbidden love had already taken root in the hearts of those who knew its secrets. A trusted kin, burdened by the weight of honor and duty, had uncovered the clandestine meetings between Longkongla and Tasio. His discovery shattered the fragile peace of tradition, and soon the entire village buzzed with murmurs of betrayal and defiance. The air grew heavy with the scent of incense and impending retribution as the elders, draped in solemn authority, convened to pass judgment on a transgression that threatened the very foundation of their ancient customs. Longkongla's world, once filled with the quiet promise of stolen moments and tender glances beneath starlit skies, now found itself ensnared in the unyielding grip of fate. The revelation of her secret union with a man from a rival tribe ignited a fire of indignation among those whose lives had been defined by loyalty to age-old edicts. Tasio, whose gentle eyes had once offered hope, now bore the mark of disgrace. His presence, once a silent promise of love, was recast as a challenge to the established order, a symbol of the dangerous allure of defiance against ancestral law. In a somber assembly held within the ancient courtyard, the village elders pronounced their verdict with voices as cold and unyielding as the stone altars before them. The sentence was swift and merciless. Tasio would be banished, exiled into the harsh wilderness where even the gods dared not tread, and Longkongla would be consigned to a future arranged by those whose hearts were unacquainted with the passions that now burned within her. The decree was not merely a punishment. It was a severing of the soul, a command that love must be sacrificed at the altar of duty and honor. As the words echoed against the walls of tradition, Longkongla felt her spirit fracture beneath the weight of despair. The jasmine flower, once a symbol of their shared hope, lay hidden against her heart, a tender reminder of a love that had blossomed in secret but now faced the cruel glare of public scorn. Tasio's visage, etched with both pain and a silent vow, lingered in her memory like the fading traces of a once vivid dream. In that moment of excruciating separation, the forces of destiny collided with the rigidity of custom, leaving in their wake a void that no earthly remedy could fill. As the day wore on, Longkongla was led toward the ceremonial grounds, each step a painful reminder of the life that was being forcibly rewritten. The village, a tapestry of ancient rites and unyielding loyalty, watched in muted horror as the force of tradition condemned her to a fate devoid of the passion she so desperately craved. Before a gathering of somber faces and unyielding eyes, the elders recited the laws that had governed their people for generations, a litany of rules that now, in the face of pure, unbridled love, seemed both cruel and unalterable. The decree demanded that she be wed to another, a man chosen not for the tenderness of his heart, but for the unbroken line of his blood, a man who would never know the fire that had ignited her soul. Yet, as the chains of destiny tightened around her, a spark of rebellion kindled within Longkongla's heart. The injustice of her fate, the cruelty of a world that demanded such sacrifice, stirred an ancient defiance within her spirit. In the cold solitude of a moonlit night, as shadows danced upon the walls of her confinement, she whispered a curse, a bitter, desperate incantation that reached out to the very forces that governed the cosmos. Her words, heavy with sorrow and fierce determination, denounced the old laws and the divine arbiters who had permitted such unyielding cruelty. It was a curse born not merely of anger, but of the profound ache of a love denied, a love that had illuminated her life even as it threatened to destroy her. Before the eyes of the mystics, the village shamans, keepers of forgotten rites and ancient wisdom, her act of defiance did not pass unnoticed. With expressions as inscrutable as the darkened sky overhead, they converged upon her, their voices rising in a solemn chorus that mingled lament with retribution. They proclaimed that her transgression was not solely a matter of the heart, but an affront to the very order of the universe. In their eyes, her curse was a spark that could ignite a conflagration, shattering the delicate balance between mortal will and divine decree. In the grip of that fateful night, as the heavens roiled with gathering storm clouds and the wind howled like the spirits of the aggrieved, Longkongla found herself driven to the edge of despair. With trembling resolve and eyes glistening with unshed tears, she fled the confines of the ceremonial grounds, her bare feet pounding against the cold earth. The narrow path led her inexorably to a towering cliff that overlooked the restless sea of the forest. There, at the very brink of oblivion, she paused, caught between the irresistible pull of destiny and the desperate desire to reclaim the love that had defined her very being. In that suspended moment, as raindrops began to blur the harsh lines of reality and the winds carried her anguished cry into the night, Longkongla spoke her final, defiant word. a curse that bound the heavens to her sorrow. The sound of her voice, soft yet unyielding, merged with the roar of the storm, echoing into the dark recesses of the world. It was a declaration that the old laws would no longer hold sway, that the price of forsaking true love was a burden the universe itself would bear. And as the first drop of rain marked her face, she stepped off the precipice, surrendering herself to the void with a heart unbound by the fetters of mortal expectation. In that heartrending act, the curse was sealed, a promise that the legacy of forbidden love would endure long after the echoes of her fall had faded. The storm above roared on, a symphony of grief and defiance, leaving the village to ponder the inexorable consequences of a fate that had dared to defy the ancient order. Even as darkness swallowed her form, the ember of her rebellion continued to glow, a silent testament to a love so profound that it challenged the very fabric of destiny, promising that this tale was far from its final chapter. In the aftermath of that tumultuous night, when the storm had subsided into a heavy, sorrowful calm, the memory of Longkongla's final act lingered like a whispered legend across the village. The oppressive silence of dawn was broken only by the steady, mournful tread of Tasio as he returned to the land he had once fled. Each step was a testament to a love that defied the very fabric of tradition, a love now marred by irrevocable loss. The familiar paths through the forest seemed to pulse with the echoes of their once shared laughter, every rustling leaf and murmur of the wind calling forth memories of secret meetings beneath the moon's tender glow. Tasio's journey led him inexorably to the cliff where Longkongla had cast aside the chains of a cruel destiny. The precipice, now shrouded in the soft light of early morning, bore silent witness to her rebellion, a defiant act that had both shattered ancient edicts and sealed her fate. As he knelt upon the cold, weathered stones, the wind, now gentle but persistent, seemed to murmur her name in a cadence of grief and longing. In that quiet communion with the past, each touch of the stone beneath his fingers carried the weight of every stolen moment, every promise made in the hidden sanctuaries of their hearts. The villagers, too, bore the scars of that fateful night. Their hushed conversations spoke of transgression and lament, of a curse unleashed upon a people too rigid to comprehend the transformative power of love. In the collective memory of the village, Longkongla had become both martyr and myth, a symbol of resistance against the tyranny of tradition that demanded conformity at the expense of the soul. Tasio's return was not only a personal pilgrimage, but a challenge to the order that had condemned them both, a silent yet potent act of defiance that rippled through the hearts of those who dared to question the immutable laws of the past. As days melted into nights, Tasio wandered the secret groves where jasmine still bloomed, its delicate fragrance a bittersweet reminder of her presence. In these hallowed spaces, the boundary between memory and reality blurred, and her spirit seemed to dance in the interplay of light and shadow. It was here, amidst nature's quiet chorus, that he began to understand that their love was not merely a fleeting passion, but an eternal force, a flame that refused to be extinguished by the harsh edicts of mortal custom. Each petal, each whispered breeze, carried with it the promise of an enduring legacy, one that could not be bound by the confines of a single life or the narrow prescriptions of ancient law. Haunted by visions in the stillness of the night, Tasio saw Longkongla not as the tragic figure who had fallen from the cliff, but as a radiant spirit, her eyes alight with defiant hope. In these dreams, she beckoned him to transcend the mortal coil and embrace a destiny where their love could flourish unfettered by the rigid chains of tradition. The bittersweet symphony of his grief and longing urged him onward, compelling him to gather kindred souls, quiet hearts disillusioned by the relentless tyranny of convention. Together, they began to murmur of change, of a future where the scars of the past might give way to a dawn of compassionate rebellion. Yet, even as the first light of a new day illuminated the village, an unspoken tension gripped Tasio's heart. The legacy of their love had become an intricate tapestry woven with threads of sorrow, courage, and irrevocable defiance. Standing once more at the edge of that storied cliff, he gazed out over the vast, unyielding expanse of the forest, where every rustle and sigh seemed to echo Longkongla's indomitable spirit. The gentle lapping of the wind against the rugged stones served as a solemn reminder that the battle between the heart's desire and the inexorable pull of tradition was far from over. In that moment, Tasio made a silent vow. He would carry forward the legacy of their forbidden love, nurturing it like a fragile bloom amid harsh, unyielding terrain. His return was not an end, but a new beginning, a promise that even in the face of overwhelming loss, love could transcend the constraints of fate and custom. With each determined step away from the precipice, he embraced a future filled with uncertain hope, a future where the echoes of Longkongla's defiance would inspire those who dared to dream of a world governed not by oppressive edicts, but by the unquenchable fire of passion and truth. As the sun climbed higher, casting long, golden shadows that intertwined with the remnants of the storm, the village slowly awakened to a dawning realization. The tragic sacrifice of Longkongla, far from extinguishing the spirit of love, had kindled within the hearts of many a yearning desire for change, a subtle, yet undeniable shift that promised the reawakening of hope. Tasio, with the bittersweet weight of both grief and resolve, stepped into this new light, knowing that his path was forever intertwined with hers. In that sacred space between remembrance and renewal, their story, etched into the annals of time like the delicate petals of jasmine, remained an enduring testament to a love that could not be silenced.